I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you, Agnello, for the kind words and the introduction, and also for this opportunity. Uh, Without wasting any further time, I'll just go straight to my deck and I'll share my screen with you. So the topic for my presentation today is media, the consistent, safer career bet. And hi, this is Deepak Netram. I am happy if you can connect with me at the details given below. I have basically chosen a topic which I felt is relevant. It's basically driven out of my personal understanding and experience of being an insider in media. But at the end of the day, a lot of these views are my personal views. At the forum that we are, I have deliberately tried to keep the whole context something which is academic, easy to retain, and useful. So just to set the context, what we'll cover today with some disclaimers. I've defined my scope as media, but with media, what I mean is the space of media planning, buying, and content. Agnello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. So, there are some disclaimers. This will sound like mutual fund ads, but I focused on media, which is the mainline media, to explain fundamentals. And I have de-jargonized content and definitions so that they are easy to understand and retain. And of course, some amount of content and images that I'm using is academic, it's non-commercial and not copyrighted. So just to let you know, one more thing which probably I would have probably not listed in my credentials is I'm a big movie buff. So a lot of my illustrations and examples end up being from cinema. So you'll have to bear with me. No, so to begin with, I have set an objective for myself. Being a media planner, I understand the value of time. In media, we measure the value of time and space. Space is in square centimeters and time is in, FCT per 10 seconds. So we obviously value the 30 minutes that you're giving to us. And I'll try to make it as useful as possible for you so you get the return on the time you're spending. I'm basically going to bring alive the utility of media, leave you with some learnings which you can retain, and hopefully with some return on investment of your time delivered. The contents largely will be structured around 5 consistent realities of life in media, and everything that centers in media, according to me, has been fit into these 5 pillars. It's a simplified view of the business of media. So there is no amount of calculation or jargon or difficult complex definitions that I'm going to talk about. It's an insider's perspective. So there is a lot which I have seen through and through, and therefore I like to bring it in a way where people will appreciate and understand. And I am going to be doing something at the end of every each of these 5 realities. As I finish the chapter, I'm going to basically tell you how you are going to gain from it, whether you end up in the media industry as your career or you're already there, or if you happen to be away in any other industry, how it benefits to you. Okay. So moving on further, I'd like to play a small video clip for you. I'd request you to listen carefully, and I hope the audio is clear because
Deepak, there is no sound. You can't hear. Deepak, audio is not. There is no sound. Deepak, audio is not audio not working. Deepak, can you hear me, Deepak? Hello, Deepak.
Hello.
Audio is not clear. We can't hear it.
Okay. Okay. So I just talk about it since for some reason the audio is not getting through my video. Basically, this is a clip from a movie called Truman Show, and most of you would have seen this movie. It's very iconic from an understanding point of view of media because a lot of events in the movie happen literally like it's a reality show that somebody is undergoing, in their life. Okay. And this movie, if you haven't seen it, I'd urge you to see it and definitely, understand it and experience it for yourself. But I'm sure a lot of people would have seen it. This movie was made in 1998, which is 22 years ago, but it still has huge amount of relevance. For example, there is a scene towards the end where, he's trying to talk to his wife and his wife is just not listening. And he keeps saying that, I am seeing things repeatedly which are being brought to my attention, which I think seem to be working in a loop, like they were, appear on ads. And I think there's something wrong, but she's just not listening. Okay. And, in a way, the movie works, the story works, everything that he is doing has been predetermined. There is basically media which is restricting his movement. It is powerful, it is pushy, and it is forcing their point of view down to the person. Sometimes it is also like the entertainment of today where it ends up hurting other people for somebody to be entertained. He's undergoing this whole reality with being restricted in one location. He can't go out. But the turning point is when he discovers the truth for himself. He realizes how much potential he has as a viewer, and finally with the moral that he has the power to decide his destiny. And this is basically very, very similar to our life today. We are constantly in the gaze and attention of media. Facts and information are being thrown at us. There is a scripted reality contest concept, where brands are integrated. But even then and now, the turning point will always be when we start using our minds. Like the Truman Show actually has given rise to something in medicine called the Truman Show syndrome. It is basically a mental illness which has been given this name. It's basically also shown 22 years ago, how a life of surveillance is going to be, where you're in the public view 24/7. It's also told us how, audience types works for brands, which digital is doing a lot. You want a certain kind of person to target. And, that's basically one Truman who you've shown, but with digital, you can have multiple Trumans like that. And the content is extremely dynamic. So in all of this, what it's going back to actually kind of explain is the life in media, that it's intelligent, it's futuristic, it's relevant, and therefore it is consistent and safer, like the topic of my presentation to you. Okay, but I'd like to talk about safer. Okay, safety is actually a very relative term. Like if you see this image, it's a boat which has a whole lot of people. We are like that when we seek safety in majority, when we are in the boat of conventions which is overcrowded. It might look safe from the outside, but we don't really know. And we need to ask ourselves, is it safe for us to be in the boat itself at all? It probably needs us to do a little better than that. We need to learn how to swim, probably we need to learn how to fly, or do something which is going to help us in the future, and not wait for things to hit us. What it means is at every point in time in our lives, we will have situations where, we will have to evaluate ourselves and not get caught by the comfort of where we are, and think whether, where we stand is all right or not. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to jump off a boat. In a normal context, it probably means when you're working in a particular job, it doesn't mean you leave the job, but you just reposition yourself. I can give you the example of my dear friend Ignello, who's known to me for the past 15 years. I have seen that every 5 years, his role has somehow changed in his company. It's transformed. Now, whether he has done it himself or, his leadership has driven him to do that, he's already, in a way, changed 5 jobs being in the same company. Okay. And that's basically just means you're in the same boat, but you're repositioning yourself. Or like me, you could have a Jerry Maguire moment, where suddenly you feel that at some point in time, you need to take off, and you can see a small boat there. You know, you need to take off in your own small boat and start something. My career was going very well for me. I was basically, winning businesses, winning client appreciation, winning awards, and everything was very set. I could be there for probably the rest of my life. But something as my, reading of the future kind of told me, I need to probably do something which helps me to prepare for the immediate future. And therefore, now I don't have the, large office and the cabin and staff and all those things around me. I am basically working as a lighter operation. Now, who knows whether that's an advantage today or not, but that's basically a call I have taken in my life. Okay. And therefore, it's something which we need to do from time to time. Our life in media helps us to question and evaluate this all the time. So, that's in the context of the title of this presentation. Now, as I move further, I'm going to basically take you through how I understand and I explain, how life in media can be simplified. So, welcome to Life Made Simple. I'm going to basically just be talking about three de-jargonized, simple to understand definitions to you. The first one is how I define media itself. To me, media is anything that connects with you or provides stimulus to our senses. So whether it's, sight, touch, hearing, taste, smell, and, we know about the conventional forms. So, an ad on TV, print ad that you see, something on digital, they are all, things which are there in our conventional understanding. There are a lot of unconventional ways media reaches out to us. For example, if you talk about the sense of smell, some brands like cars, manufacturers, they actually have a fragrance for each brand. If you go into a mall, there's a particular fragrance for a mall also. And if you enter into a multiplex, when you're going to watch a movie or somewhere around the interval, you suddenly start getting the aroma of popcorn. In a way, it's a cue to your subconscious mind that you should go and eat something. So, all of these are ways in which some medium is reaching out, but every single medium, whether it is conventional, mainline, digital, offline, outdoor, retail, search, OTT, everything is under the purview of this definition. Incidentally, I am also using this presentation to be a medium to you. I have deliberately tried to, create awareness about myself and my name in every place which is available, so that at the end of it, at least you have some awareness of who I am as a person. Okay. So that's about media. Media is anything that connects with us and provides stimulus to our senses. Going on to media as a business and how it basically can be, explained in the most simple manner. As a business, media actually aims to fulfill two basic marketing requirements. One, who the brand, the service, the company, the content needs to speak to. And secondly, how it needs to reach them in the most effective manner. Okay. Who we need to speak, as in who is the target audience, where do they stay, what is their lifestyle, what are their media habits, what is the best way to reach them. And how is basically how you choose the media mix, the communication touch points, to deliver the most effective message that a brand aspires to do. So in principle, this is how you could say the entire business of media can be summarized. And I have, often used this as a definition and a conversation with several other people, media experts. I have not found anything that they have contended, and it's fairly widely accepted. So I would like to urge you to understand it in these two simple lines as a business. It will give you a lot of principle, fundamental clarity for the rest of this presentation and also for anything that you plan to do in the future. Going further, I want to basically come straight to the 5 consistent signs of life that I see in media. Going by, point by point, it basically trying to say, a business is alive, it's kicking, it's consistent, it's moving, it's kind of safe. what are some of the factors that indicate to all of these signs of life? So the first one obviously is that a business which is alive is always there. It's always present. It can be seen. And in that sense, media is an omnipresent business. So it's a business which has been there from the most, earliest of times. In our history, in our, ancient history, if you go into the caves, you'll see a lot of, walls where messaging and mediums have been used. If you go into the ancient Greek history, there are stadiums where a lot of this was seen as events, like sporting events. You would see it a movie like Gladiator, where they had a lot of these things happening. So, it's been there all along from, the beginning of time and in the history of every possible culture and country. Okay. In fact, if you look at it, there was trade which began in the Stone Age, and I get this information from the internet, so the source is there. It basically started 12,000 years ago when they were trading. Okay, we can see it in our arts and murals where you have beating drummers making announcements. Now that was a form of media. The earliest and accepted, newspaper in the world, which was organized, was in 1605, made by a person called Johann Carolus in Strasbourg, Germany. It was called Relation Aller, and the rest of it is German, so I don't pronounce it very well. But 1605 is probably the first accepted, organized form of a newspaper which came into the world. And then it has gone on to define all the moments in our lives. So whether they're happy or sad moments, each of them have been brought alive to us in some way or the other with media. And if I want to, I want to run you through these images. They are thumbnails, but the image will bring alive a lot of the history to you anyway. For example, the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombing in black and white is an image which remains to people, at least from my generation, remember seeing it somewhere either in a films division film or in some black and white coverage of the news. The Orville Wright, the Wright brothers with the aeroplane, Rakesh Sharma talking from space saying Sare Jahan Se Acha Hindustan Hamara, the collapse of the Berlin Wall. All these basically moments have basically been created to us in our memories, thankfully, and with the power of media. In recent times, in 90s, we saw the Gulf War happening, and literally it was a war which was conducted on television. It was using the powerful networks which showed you bombing happening, which showed you warfare happening. It happened in the night. It literally looked like, a video game, though it was very, very unfortunate and uncertain. But our only, view of that was largely from what we saw in the news, whether we read about it or saw it on television, till the collapse of the Saddam regime. And, this image which I have put of Saddam's statue being pulled down, again, is a very, very pertinent image which we remember seeing in all the news channels. Okay. Going on to our own Indian history, whether it's the Dandi March, whether it's the speech of the Tryst of Destiny, the times of emergency, Mrs. Gandhi's assassination, Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, a lot of things around the funeral, how the next generation took up the politics of that time, all that came alive in some form to us with media. Then, of course, there were unfortunate incidents like 9/11 and 26/11. Again, they were very strongly entrenched as TV news glimpses. And I'm sure you will all recall, when you jog back in your memory, seeing how it was actually delivered. Other interesting things happened, like it's, I think, the first time the royal wedding got telecasted on television. Sorry. And here again, coming to the more recent times, we find that the current prime minister of our country is somebody who actually fully convincingly uses the power of media. He has full knowledge and he uses it to the best of his advantage as a prime minister and for the betterment of the nation. So whether it's about, his personal initiatives, whether it's about how he, interacted with the world leaders like Donald Trump, whether how he celebrated, small and big occasions in our country. He also was emphatic to the failure at ISRO. That image of him hugging Mr. Sivan of ISRO, you know, the whole Uri, surgical attack, demonetization, GST as concepts coming, the demolition of Article 377, Kashmir, all of those things, very prolifically brought life to us because we have a media savvy, fully convinced about media prime minister. And he has his own show on radio, on Man Ki Baat, which otherwise you would find that, it's been a medium which a lot of people have not used. Okay. Uh, Likewise, there are people like Mr. Doval, who has been profiled as somebody who is this, chief of our intelligence. We didn't have people getting this kind of recognition, acknowledgement in the past. So all this is thanks to the power of media, which is helping us to create landmarks, getting us the information of calamities, and celebrating our achievements. Also coming to the lighter side, where it has brought the world together in celebrating some very big world events, whether it was famous rivalries which existed in sports, in tennis, with McEnroe, with Agassi, or whether it was Maradona's hand of God, you know to recent Leo Messi, AR Rahman shining at the Oscars, the Asian Games in 1982, our very own Kapil Sharma, who's entertaining us every weekend, and how big that show has become for everyone in this country. How we performed during cricket, the World Cups, shows like Hum Log and Bunyad on DD, our star performers, Dhoni, Virat, Kohli, some iconic moments of cricket like Saurav Dada removing his t-shirt and circling it in the air in Lord Stadium, and beauty pageants one, Sushmita Sen, Aishwarya, till the recent athletes like Mary Kom. So all of this basically is how media has been there from the beginning in every happy, sad, big or small moment in creating the world for us. Its implication, what it basically means is the consumption and the play of media is always on. So every minute, every moment, every second, media is on an always on basis. Okay, the meter is running. There is consumption happening. So it's not like, IPL happened for 11 years and when the 12th year Star took it over, it wouldn't perform. Every year viewership has also grown. So we grew by 12% in the last IPL. More than half the world watched the World Cup final. 1.9 billion people watched the royal wedding. Okay, when the election happened, general election happened last year, 95% increase in viewership. Kapil Sharma show is the most watched show on television. Okay, all this is basically indicative of live audiences being tuned into media in any form of media, whether it is television, whether it's print, whether it's digital, whether it's radio, whether it's out of home, events, the whole gamut. And this, in a way, is all running on the back of revenues that come from advertising. There is subscription, but it's a smaller contributor. And in this very cluttered slide, all I want you to know is that it's largely advertising which is funding the whole media business to the extent of 70,000 crores on an annual basis. Because there is so much of advertiser money coming in, there is a need for this to be measured and to be effective. And for this purpose, there are various researches, there are various units you use to measure the efficacy of each touch point. Okay, so for example, on radio it is listenership, on print it is readership, on television it is viewership. It is factored with cost as cost per thousand for readership. It is factored as CPRP for television. And of course, there's a syndicated body called BARC, which gives you television data. There's a syndicated body which gives you print. And apart from all this, of course, there is digital. Digital has multiple touch points. And therefore, within that, I guess we could largely say it is traffic that you measure in various ways and how that traffic is delivering, whether it's cost per milli, cost per click, cost per lead, cost per acquisition, the likes, shares, searches, the kind of virality a campaign is happening. All these basically are ways an advertiser is able to understand how effective is the money that he's spending on advertising, what is his ROI. Okay. There are two ways in which agencies get remunerated. So if you take an example of rupees 100 being the spend, the 100 rupees is spent on, suppose, a channel. So that 100 rupees is given to the channel, of which 85 is retained as the amount which goes to the media broadcaster or the channel, and 15% goes back to the agency. So this is basically the only possible norm with which many years ago the commission business started. 15% being what the agency got, which was basically then net, and 85 went back to the broadcaster. It's something which was a norm. Over the years, it has changed. The broad split between 15% was 10% was for creative, 5% was for media. But it has differed from case to case, and it has undergone a lot of changes. As a norm, this is what is possibly available. Therefore, I am leaving you with this norm. The other way is obviously a retainer fee, which is like a flat monthly fee. How this works is a client and an agency agree for a certain amount of money, either on an annual basis or on a monthly basis. This works either to the advantage of the client or to the agency, depending on how the situation is. For example, if it's going to be higher than 15% that they would have earned as a commission, then it benefits the client because he's capped the agency's fee under 15%. It benefits the agency if the client underspends, because the agency already has a team in place. They are going to have running costs. So whether the brand has launched or not in the country, the team has been hired, work has happened, fixed costs have been taken. So in a way, the agency is at least assured of getting their income, their revenue. That is how the retainer works. The new age models largely are moving towards retainer, but agencies are flexible to work with both. Okay. When we look at why this is important, why I am talking about this is because media has suddenly come to the fore. A creative, initially there would be only 2 or 3 films a brand would make in a year, but there would be multiple releases. Plus the cost of media has gone up. We had only Doordarshan, then we had Doordarshan and Zee and Sony, and now there are 200 plus channels. Okay, within television, there's a lot of fragmentation. Within newspapers, again, there's a lot of additional titles which have got. There is digital, there is radio. So your viewership is actually fragmented and split, and there's an explosion of media options. There's a lot of competition, and obviously clients are looking at economies of scale. So how they can get the best of best bang for their buck. If they basically combine all their budgets, which media agency is going to give them the best rates, the best buying. So this is how the whole media business and its remuneration has evolved. In addition to this, there could be structures where an agency could be full service, which means the entire 15%, like I told you in the first example, they do both creative and media. They could be doing creative for one of the brands and media for all the brands, or they could be doing only media and no creative. So it could be only a media agency relationship. Okay, then it further breaks down where a client would say, I want one agency only for planning and one agency only for buying. Okay, and when you look at mainline and digital, again, there are different structures. So within digital also, it could be based on what function, whether it's search, whether it's web management, social display, there could be multiple agencies. This is basically the case when there are large spends. Usually when it's a smaller business, obviously, it tends to be with one agency. Okay, so that's basically about the forms of remuneration. In addition, clients also add incentives based on performance. And when your fee, you could actually have a project, you could calculate it on man hours or a particular customized requirement. So you may not be a full, hired for the full year. You may just do one project with the client for something which is customized and get paid for it. That's how a lot of consultants like me work. So the key takeout, media is omnipresent. If you happen to be part of this industry and you land up here in your career, be assured there's going to be a constant flow of business and revenue. even if you're away, it's likely to impact, your career at every stage, because of the way media is and how it actually brings every event in, our life alive. Okay. And one, fact for you to remain, retain if possible is media agencies are flexible. So, whether it is fee or commission, their remuneration, they are all right as long as, it works back to them. Coming to the second point, you know, media is always active. It is always in motion. It is always moving. Okay. And that's again another sign of life, there is a very nice proverb which I put here, which is, don't be afraid of moving slowly, just be afraid of standing still. So in a way, media decides the pace at which it moves, and it continues to move. Okay. It's dynamic in a way, it has evolved rapidly. There is a real time complexity that we need to take into account and capitalize based on the need of the hour. So we must move with speed, we must be relevant, we must use the best of technology, we must interpret data, we must transform, we must predict future trends, and we have to have audiences which are loyal to us. We have to ultimately build brand business, because that's how we are going to get paid. So, all these put together, in every way, media has a lot of things which make it very dynamic, and it constantly evolves. Okay. In recent times, I want to talk about, how the whole corona outbreak was reported. I, from my personal experience, have seen that on a channel called YN, from the second week of November, they started talking about it and covering it. And they were calling it, I think, the Wuhan virus at that point in time. Okay. And, so that is the way, even in the Indian set of, media partners, the pace at which things are moving, they are evolving and looking at the world developments. Okay. But I want to illustrate it more recently with what we have undergone, in the India context. So with the lockdown, obviously, the entire nation was at standstill and no resources were available. This would be true of the media industry as well, because if you talk about, say, the print industry, it relies on a lot of human, resource. But if there's a lockdown, nobody's available. How does it work? You still had publications getting their daily print every day. Okay. Whether it's a television channel, how do you get your crew, your cameraman, your reporters to reach where they have to reach if there's a lockdown? And also imagine in this whole period of quarantine for 40-45 days, if there was no media, if there was a media lockdown also, how would we have managed? Okay. But thankfully, to our benefit, that's not how it happened. And in a way, there were different needs. So for example, there was a need for constant and real-time information to play out, for information to be analyzed and implication to be shared. There was a need to build awareness in education. We needed to bring rapid behavioral change into, large masses of the country. So this was on the information and awareness side. On the other side, since this was a time a lot of families were together, you had to find ways of entertaining them, to getting them to, spend time with each other, to unwind. And there was a fourth aspect. There is a fourth aspect, which is how do you basically use media to bring down the anxiety or the distress levels that people are facing? How do you get people to unwind and to basically feel positive with what is going around with them? So with all these complicated, requirements, media still delivered, and it transformed to play multiple roles. For example, we know how news has been reported to us, with information coming to us regularly for us to know whether it's about, the daily reports, the very interesting data and technology that channels are using to show you across the India map what the situation is. We have our own COVID warriors as news reporters going down to every city. I think we don't acknowledge and appreciate it enough. For every news reporter, whichever medium, they are actually in the thick of it, and they are bringing the news alive to us. Whether it's about, the health ministry, and there is a mandate, I think they have been given all channels that they should talk about, what the doctors are saying, how corona should be fought. So there is a regular update which is happening with all the top doctors also, like Dr. Gulati of AIIMS. Then there is awareness, which is basically telling people using various means that they should stay at home, they should not step out, that they should not spread rumors. Now, all of this happened and we saw it happening. Okay. The icing on the cake was organically a lot of celebrities and influencers, also got involved, and they helped in building this message through media. On the entertainment side, we again saw some very interesting things happening. Media brought back the whole thing of family and nostalgia by playing old, mythological soaps. They re-aired them. They got, happiness memories recreated with the reruns of Kapil Sharma. We had movies being premiered directly on OTT, like, we had in English medium, we had, two or three other large movies coming straight to OTT. Then we had, very interesting, innovative way where top actors from across the country, India, South, West, East, North, all come together to do a digital film sitting in their homes and bring the message alive with Amitabh Bachchan, with Ranbir, with Mammootty, Mohanlal, all these big stars. We had some very engaging OTT series with 4 or 5 seasons, which got very popular. Then there was a lot which was being done to pacify and motivate people, to build hope for them. So whether it was what the Prime Minister got us to do, lighting candles or the thali, whether it was about celebrities, doing concerts, releasing songs around Corona, whether it was, Sadhguru and Baba Ramdev talking about what you could do to get peace of mind through meditation. So all this happened in the last, 40, 45 days. And this in a way is my, method, and I think the best way to bring alive how media is constantly on the move. It's always in motion. Okay. Having said that, all this also translated to consumption. So we are seeing numbers that we didn't see before earlier. Viewership has shot up, OTT consumption has shot up, news has shot up. Every possible parameter, we are seeing huge increases. TV time has gone up by 40%. People are using their, mobile apps a lot more. So the consumption is high, and because people want news. On the other hand, a lot of concepts around food have got created. So, it's good for brands as well. Okay, so consumption has been up, and this in a way is a payback, and also telling you that at a time where a lot of industries were still figuring out what should be the next step, media had already figured out, and from day one, it was in the live action, building, solutions to the situation parallelly. Okay, what learning do we have? I think media is always in motion, and for somebody who's in the industry, learning and self-development is like default. It's constant and crucial. But even if you're away, if you have access to media agencies, media partners, it's the fastest and simplest way of mapping trends to know what is going to happen. And as a, leave behind, as a, life lesson, media, I would like to say media is constantly evolving. It's a fast-paced and self-enhanced business. I come to the third point, which is about how inclusive media is. And basically, media is inclusive of all. There is a Hindi saying which says, "Kos kos par pani badle, char kos par bani," which basically means every 2 kilometers, the flavor and the taste and texture of water changes. And at every 4 kilometers, your language changes, your dialects change. Okay. And it's basically this image of, we the people and how democratic and inclusive media is. In a country like ours, where we are about large families, where we are of different segments, different urban and rural kind of geographical divisions, there are different audiences as well. So for example, if there's a farmer in Sihor, he watches his local news on television. A teenager watches OTT. A father in Dhule reads Pudhari, watches cricket. A young boy watches cartoon. A grandmother is there watching her regional television or regional GC, language GC. And a housewife in Patna watches Hindi GC. So each one has their own preference, and nobody is written off. And the media actually inclusively carries all these segments. In a way, they all translate to some amount of business for a brand. And there is a lot of affluence happening, which basically means if you compare over the years, this is data from the most recent IRS, which was released 2 days ago. People's affluence and education has given rise to them assessing more and more mediums. So, from a time where there were 20 people, 20% of the population didn't watch any media, now it's down to 17%. Okay. And there are fewer people who only watch one media. There are more people who watch multiple media. The percentage is small, but please take into account this is urban plus rural all India population. So there are people who are multimedia audiences. So it's not somebody watching one channel or reading one paper. To target them, you also have to use a complete media mix. And in this way, media has to include every possible segment and carry it forward. Okay. Every touch point has its own strength. It has its own reach and its own delivery. So while television may be the highest and magazine may be very low to 5%, they each have their individual strength and a role to play when you talk to brands. For example, even with a 5% reach, a magazine offers you selectivity, it offers you an editorial environment, it offers you shelf life, it offers you a good reproduction. So you can't bypass any medium, you can't bypass any channel, you can't bypass any vehicle just because your personal opinion might not be that somebody watches it. Because of the nature of our country, there are large segments and there are multiple segments who consume all kinds of media. Okay. And it's beyond top touch five touch points also. So in the previous slide, I spoke about TV, print, radio, which are, top 4 or 5 touch points, which get covered in, the large media touch points, but there are further breakdowns to touch points. So, within these touch points also, there'll be other touch points or there'll be touch points beyond these touch points, which matter to audiences. For example, in a rural locality, your melas and fairs become important. For somebody who's into automobiles, expert reviews are important. Somebody, influencers may have a big role to play. For somebody who's health conscious, gyms are important. Okay. And there are multiple segments which get broken down based on gender, age, geographical location, monthly household income, language, geography, and culture, which basically media carries in its fold and is inclusive. So as a key takeout, the business of media for somebody who's in the business will give you the experience and understanding of working with multimedia touchpoints. And even if you're away, what you should probably have as a takeout is to have a balanced and unbiased media neutral approach to what you do. So for example, if you end up being in another industry and you happen to look at marketing as a profile from the outside, you should understand that you may not be consuming a certain medium, but the reason it is there in a media plan or as a recommendation from an agency or a consultant is because some segment is watching it and there is viewership, readership, listenership, traffic, something to justify why that happens. Okay. As leave behind truth, media availability in India mirrors the demand complexity of multiple audiences and carries them in a democratic process. So it may not always be profitable for a large group to have a loss-making investment in some city or some country, state, or in some medium. But because they want to carry all audiences, a lot of times this is done to make sure that they are inclusive. Okay, coming to the fourth point, media is about precision. So here basically, it's about saying how focused you can be. So while there is one reality that there is a whole large mass of the country, there's another reality that you need to make sure that you make the money work for your client, that the ROI is the highest, and therefore you precisely go after who the audience is. Now it's a very, very rigorous and laborious process, and that's why I've used this quote from Messi, which is basically, it took me 17 years and 114 days to become an overnight success. In media, we are doing this with every campaign and almost probably every day, where we go back and rejig the data, we go back and redo the exercise, we apply all the rigor and intellect and databases to become as precise as possible. Okay, so in effect, what it means is if your ammunition is the budget, always going to be limited. No client is going to say there is infinite amount of money. You need to prioritize, you need to prioritize, you need to prioritize. And instead of having a carpet, cover kind of approach, you need to sharpshoot and make sure the money works for you. The prioritization is basically on three key levels, which is target audience, market, and media mix. And again, there's a primary level to these three, which is to start with the demographics for target audience, to start with the sales dispersion and growth for markets, and to look at just the top line reach of media in a market. Okay, but you have to go much deeper. And with each of these, then you need to develop your own understanding and build. Okay, so I have explained this later on. Also, yeah, for people who are going to be in some way in the marketing profession, the way audiences are classified, they are classified in socioeconomic classifications. That has undergone an upgrade for the media industry very recently, where you get people classified on the basis of durable ownership versus education, which was the parameter. So, if you see on the left side, the chart will show you 9 durables. Based on the number of durables you own, your affluence is defined. So you can own up to 9 or more. And the other grid is basically based on your education. Sorry, so it has replaced income, not education. My apologies. Read it as income. On the other grid is education. So your literacy levels with the cross tab of durable ownership show where you stand on your socioeconomic classification. Okay. So for example, if we take a brand and using this, we end up with a demographic audience of women who are 25 plus NCCS-A in key metros. This would basically be a demographic TG for a brand. Suppose it's a brand of FMCG brand of shampoo. Okay, largely this is the demographic broad audience, but this is not where your audience stops. You need to move to the next level. And the reason for this is that within this demographic of 25 plus NCCS-A in women, there are multiple subclusters and subsegments. Okay, so for example, again, I've used cinema as an example, which is to say, if there's a lady who is 25 years, and only if taking the example of Mumbai, NCCS-A, if you look at all women, would account to 35 lakh individuals. Okay, but within these also, for the same kind of person, the same age group, the same segment, there are different personality types or archetypes, as we call them. Okay, there could be somebody who's a fresher, somebody who's doing a postgraduate in medicine, somebody who's a first jobber, somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, somebody who wants to take a very offline business. Now you go and look at the segment which is most relevant to you, and in this case, you've taken the working woman who's the first jobber, who wants to basically be a CEO at some point as the ambition, lives in suburb in Mumbai, and you then further worked on this. So you don't again stop here. You further go and look at this cluster even more closely, and you get a lot of lifestyle trends. So what are the kind of things this kind of person looks after, wants to do. They want to basically look after their health. They want to be fit. They want to be well groomed. They want to be in with the latest trends. They want to know what is happening in the world. Okay, and with digital, it goes even further, because digital allows you to actually create audience groups and target them programmatically. So you can actually talk to a set of people who have the same kind of interests and behaviors, and you can target them repeatedly. This is something you will understand. For example, if you go and shop on, say, Amazon for a product, and you don't buy it, and you just click on it, when you come to Facebook, the same ad pops up on the right side, because you are being retargeted. Okay, so this is how audiences work, and how you build on sub-segmenting and prioritizing further. Okay, so this is what you do for audience. When you look at markets, again, there is a layered process. You start by building your market contribution. You would make the top line data. You look at audience dispersion, and then you build another matrix which is called the brand development and the category development index. Simply explained, The brand development index is an indicator of a brand performing in a particular market versus the total population in that market. And you have the category development index, which is basically how a category performs in a particular market versus the rest of the country. So you decide how you want to prioritize your markets based on how your brand is performing or the category is performing, and you create a layered process where you come out with something which reprioritizes and reclassifies your markets for you. So for example, if your brand development index is higher than the category development index in a set of markets, it basically means your brand is performing better than the category. That should become the best market for you. So you focus all your money over there as a strategy. Okay, it could be the other way around, where you say, look, I've already been doing well, I need to stop investing in this market and look at a market where my brand development index is lower than the category, so my brand has potential to grow more. Okay, so market classification happens for every state like this. Okay, and there is a way you do it. I've explained this with an example where if you look at the population, which is the column C, as a percentage, Maharashtra is 23%, Andhra Pradesh is 8%, Kerala is 20%. And you look at the category sales percentage, which is column FE in orange. Andhra Pradesh has a 17% of share coming from all India. Okay, 17% of this category sales come from the state of Andhra Pradesh compared to all India. Okay, so 17% is the brand sale, the category sale, 8% is the brand sale, and the column G is basically the percentage of the brand dispersion. So again, if you look at Andhra Pradesh here, 19% of the sale of this brand comes from Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so when I have to calculate the category development index for Andhra Pradesh, I will use 17%, which is column E for AP, and I use 8% as the denominator, which is the population, into 100. This gives me the category development index. Then I look at the brand development index for Lux in Andhra Pradesh. Lux gets 19% of its sales, for example, from Andhra Pradesh. So 19% becomes my numerator. My denominator remains the same, which is 8% into 100. I get 238 as my BDI. So in a way, my BDI for AP is 238. The CDI is 213. Indicates that Lux is doing better than the category in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so that's basically how you do it, and you reclassify your markets. Even for your touch points for media, you do the same process, and you end up with a very differentiated list versus what a top line. So if I had only looked at overall reach, as I had shown in the first slide, and which is the top channel, I would have ended up with a initial list of very small touch points, limited touch points, non-differentiated touch points. When I look at this audience closely, I will say, okay, this audience is about events, awards, international shows. They want to know about fashion. They want to know about how they can go up in their career. If they have to sponsor something like a Shark Tank or an Apprentice. Okay, on digital, look at OTT, look at social, look at CEO forums, look at a tie-up with fashion e-commerce. In print, look at business dailies, look at marketing and lifestyle supplements and dailies. On OH, tie up with multiplexes, saloons, gyms, cafes, all the places where this audience seems to have some kind of connection. Okay, so in a way, each of these is further fleshed out for you to have a better priority. Okay, in summary, when I say media is about precision, when you're in the industry, it basically means there's a huge amount of rigor in data and analysis that you need to do to reach a sound understanding. Even if you're away, if you want to tap into a good media resource, it's going to help you to get a very good initial understanding of what you should do for your brand. You would get a very good strategic indication from them. Okay, and in a category truth, in a business truth, I would say media works very hard to prioritize and target the customers. It's something which may not get very well appreciated, but it's a very hygiene thing that most agencies are supposed to be doing, and it gives them a better understanding of the audience. It gives the client a better ROI because his money is not wasted, or her money is not wasted. Coming to the fifth and the last point, which is basically the return on media is directly proportional to the kind of initiative that you put in. So, as you sow, you will reap. Initiative is basically driven by your conviction. Conviction comes from a sound understanding. So, what does it take to be a sound media professional? Firstly, you need to have a very good balance between your quantitative and qualitative skills. You have to build these skills over time, and you have to be very, very in depth, whether how you interpret data to build strategy, whether how you use qualitative inputs and creativity to be innovative, and of course, a lot of hygiene skills, which are like an eye for detail, eye to learn, presentation skills, how you present a point of view to be unbiased. And as the third parameter, keeping an eye on the media environment. You need to know your media ecosystem thoroughly to be able to leverage it. So this could be true of somebody who joins the industry and is in the media business as a media professional. It could also be true of an advertiser and a marketeer, somebody who invests into advertising to be able to get the best results from their media agency partner. Okay, I've explained this with an example. Media is a business for business, and it's a strong partner for the entire customer journey. So, for example, if you look at automobiles, the research to buy an automobile starts much earlier, in even 6 months before somebody buys a car, which is why at the search stage only you have to be relevant for a customer. You need to basically be able to, give them inputs on search, give them expert reviews, build it over a period of time, as teasers on television, announce a pre-booking so that people anticipate the launch. When you actually launch, you have to build a lot of aura and make the launch big, because buying cars is always aspirational. You need to build a lot of engagement around your dealerships. When it comes to the time which is post-purchase, again, you have to make sure that you celebrate, the whole fact that people are with you as customers. You provide regular service camps to them, and you instill a pride of ownership. You build loyalty. Another fact about auto is that, people have a very high tendency of purchasing their second car, their next car, their upgraded car from the same manufacturer if they have a good experience. Okay, so this is how auto works. In recent times, there is the example of Amul, which in this whole COVID situation, Corona situation, has become the talk of the town for their strategy. Amul did not stop at any point in time, whether it was their business or their advertising. They latched on to news, and if you have been observing, their current consumption of news is very high. It's one of the most visible brands. Their products and their food range has been, in the market. It's been basically part of the essential products. And whatever they've done to, meet their entire, marketing requirements in this particular period has actually become a case study. It's all over the internet. So this particular image I've put is from something which happened on Melt. You can go and see it. They did a lot of intelligent things. So they latched on to news from the time they kind of predicted something like this would happen. That's what Mr. R.S. Sodhi, their director, had said in the news. They grew 17% and they continue to grow. And they also looked at, sponsorship of Mahabharata and Ramayan the minute the opportunity came up. So a lot of smart things they did. Okay. At the same time, in his interview, he was wondering why a lot of other categories have not used this potential opportunity to be relevant. And it's a surprise because, as professionals, we can see it coming. So, okay, another example of how, a brand, which is a brand I worked on, this is something I worked on a case, they used and leveraged a sponsorship for an entire customer journey, from end to end, from basically the time Anil Kapoor started promoting this show, he went to the dealerships, he went and met customers, he went to basically, all the cities where we have key dealerships. then to integrating the brand in every episode, showing it as being tough in action. A special game was created again where Safari was integrated. There was a lot of promotion which happened for the show, which was done with the brand and the brand messaging. Okay, Anil Kapoor did a lot of engagement on the brand itself. He went to the plant. He basically integrated post 24. Also, he made his entry in a show in a safari. All this basically yielded tremendous results, and there is a case study again on this, which basically showed there was a 30% increase in sales for the safari in this period. I have a navy, but I'll not play it since the audio is not clear. I'll just skip this and go ahead. To summarize, ROI is all about building conviction and going all out to exploit the full potential of media. So every customer journey point has some interesting thing you can do with media. You can be innovative. You can do something at some stage. If you're away from the industry, again, you should do all you can to support in getting out the full potential of media. So you should have a good, robust understanding. And as a truth of this, business, I would say media scores higher with conviction. So be active, informed, and aware consumers of media. It's a very, very important thing. And, I was talking about, opportunity. So if you see today's newspaper, again, we had a very bad situation when the alcohol shops were opened. There is something which came in today or yesterday that, Zomato is trying to make this whole delivery go online. Okay, I don't want to comment on the ethics of this, consumption of alcohol, but I'm saying as a strategy, would it have not been smarter to, stop such a mess from happening and do it from the beginning? Also, the fact that people are going to be home, so dishwashers and vacuum cleaners sales are going to shoot up or have shot up. But I don't know if we see adequate amount of brand advertising around them. Okay? So bringing it all together, 5 consistent signs of life. Media is omnipresent. Media is in motion all the time. It's inclusive of all. It's about precision. And how much ROI you get is purely determined by your own initiative, by your own conviction, and your own understanding. So if you change perspective, I started with this palm being vertical. If it becomes horizontal, what it means is, it's welcoming you to shake hands and greet you to the lively world of media, though figuratively, and welcome aboard. I would like to also request you to sign on a pledge as we talk to be active practitioners and consumers of media. It actually requires nothing more but your initiative. So log on to media websites daily, trade websites. There is Exchange for Media, Campaign India, there is Agency Facts. Log on to see what is happening, which campaigns are getting active. Log on and basically build your own understanding of precision in media strategy. So if you see how somebody is doing a particular campaign, build a point of view on whether they are being precise or not, or what are they doing to be precise, and ask these questions to yourself or to your agencies, your colleagues. When you work on a media plan in an agency, work on a strategy, ask. If you're not also, if somebody is working, try to see if you look for these answers. Actively consume media yourself also. Observe print, TV, digital, OH, advertising, see what happens in ad breaks. Don't switch off. Don't feel bad about it, because ultimately those ads are funding, those mediums. Read, marketing sections in dailies carefully to know what is happening with brands. Develop your own view of media. Now, going back to the Truman Show, and again, please see the movie whenever you get your time. Some of these movies like Minority Report, Interstellar, all these are very, very informative, because they are literally done as a futuristic, reality. So develop your own view. There's information flowing all around. There are channels, there are views. Don't get caught by it. Let your own view be formed based on facts and build your own wisdom. And lastly, pursue media with full conviction. Be in it for the long haul. Don't do something which is half-hearted. And from today, pledge to be an active media practitioner. Thank you. That's all from my side. Now, I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, yeah. So first we'll take questions from the question box, and if they have to anything to
Yeah, I'll
ask,
just
we can
go.
ask them later. Okay, you want me to
Uh,
ask the question? You'll answer, or you?
I can see two questions in the box.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first question is, what is the fifth point? The fifth point is basically what you get out of media as a return is purely based on how much initiative you put behind it. So, for example, I told you when you start on a basic level, you can just look at demographic audience. You can just look at sales dispersion of markets. You could just look at the highest reach of media in a particular market and make your media strategy and your plan based on that. The rigor is obviously from the next steps. When you go deeper and deeper and deeper and understand your audience better, understand exactly who your audience is, and focus your money on that. So, as thorough and well informed are you about the entire media offering and what it can do for you, the better the result will be. The second question is how ancient time influenced today's modern time media, and what would be the impact of media coming in 20 years? So I
Before
think
could you remove the slide? Remove the slide so that they can see you.
just go back. So this is this is slide 5, which I just explained. The point 5. Somebody asked about this point. I told you that you need to involve yourself completely, use all your skills, use your entire intellect, and build basically your own self as a professional, whether you're in the industry or not, and understand what each consumer journey stage comprises of, and what media could do in each consumer journey stage. Be active and alive to what is happening in the environment, predict a lot of what the future is going to be like, use data to analyze, milk things thoroughly. So if it's a sponsorship, a lot more sponsorship just stop at what happens on air. You just get a sponsorship tag. This program brought to you by so and so brand. This particular Safari Storm sponsorship is a sponsorship which started before the program went on air itself and continued even after the program. So this is the level to which you milked a TV sponsorship, and from being a mere branding exercise, it became a marketing exercise because it actually helped you to generate sales, generate leads, go to your dealerships, etc. Okay, so that's basically the point. And the next question is about uh, how ancient time media influences today's media time. So there is no slide to this, but basically, I think some fundamentals remain the same. I think as cultural influences, we are still, caught by our own cultures. For example, in India, reading the newspaper in the morning is a culture. Your day does not properly start for you till you haven't read the newspaper. And I firmly believe once we are out of this entire situation, we will go back to the habit of reading because it's a culture. You can't take away the culture from a country. Okay, we are basically as human beings, whether it was ancient times or not, a stimulus is something which is inbuilt as human beings. So that you need to appeal to somebody's stimulus is something which continues from ancient time to every time. That's not going to change, whether now or in the 20 years. And probably the impact is that every 20 years or every decade, your media explosion increases. There are more and more media touch points. There's more clutter. So you have to make it more compelling and more powerful. I think that is the impact you would probably need to prepare for. You need to make sure that your plan, your strategy, your messaging, your content is more breakthrough, because the number of people, number of distractions, the number of messages that each person is receiving in his mind on a daily basis is increasing manifold. You have to be more creative, more innovative, and more cut through. The third question is about what type of jobs are available for PGDM graduates in the marketing industry. I think the entire industry, works with people with a marketing background. I think that is the starting point. So virtually every division which has a vacancy is probably fine to work with somebody with an MBA degree. I don't think there is any particular hindrance or block from my understanding. Though if you are in the media planning and buying space very specifically, that's where you'll find a lot of your fundamentals, a lot of your theory coming into practice. So these are the questions I can see.
There is one question in chat box. How will the job roles in media change in the post-COVID situation?
I think we will move to a lot more automation. We will move to a lot more technology. We will basically move to a lot of lightweight processes. Our processes right now in the business are very, very people reliant. There are very large operations, and Agnello, you will agree that we rely a lot on the human aspect. It's a people-driven business. Our dependency on manual practices will need to cease and reduce. There will definitely be a higher tilt or twist towards digital advertising and spending.
There is a question from Rinti in the question and box.
From?
Yes, see, joining a media industry, fresher says this year will be joining. I have no previous experience or idea about industry. What should I expect as a fresher, and what should I equip myself with or prepare myself for? See, joining a media industry.
Okay, so this presentation is something which should be a good starting point. And the 5 points I've told you, if you make it as a practice genuinely, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I tell this to the people who work with me as well, that, it's ultimately initiative driven. Today, the, internet has given access to virtually everything to you. So even I don't need to go and call out any data. I can actually go and look at everything that is available in the public domain and create a deck like this. Okay, so you need to build your own consumption and understanding first. Okay, look at it as a business, be engaged, read a lot from whatever is available online. Basically start from making sure that your fundamental understanding of business is clear before you have to go through the whole process of joining somewhere.
If any more questions, you can raise your hand if you want. You can just answer directly, ask a question, because there are no more questions in question box. Otherwise, we'll say thank you. Okay, I believe it is time to say thank you because there are no more questions. So Deepak, I take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of Business Standard and all the students who attended. Okay, there was a really very interesting session that you built up, and the 5 points you gave will really help all those people who want to make their career in media industry. And if not, otherwise also it's going to help them in a longer run, even if they are not in the media industry, because you put it in and out, both aspects of listening to your talk today. So we are very much grateful for your session today, and thank you very much. And we wish you all the best for your new company that you have started. And I strongly believe that you'll do extremely well because of your professional, the way you take forward, and all the best to you. I also wish the students all the best and do well and be prepared to achieve great success. If you do well and if your process is right, you'll achieve success in life. All the best.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Agnello. It was great. And I look forward to any kind of further questions. I have given you my email ID. I am available on LinkedIn, so we can continue any interaction that you want in the future as well. All the best.
Somebody wants your email ID.
I have put it on the first slide.
Yeah. You can go to the first slide, please. Yeah, you can see the email ID. Okay, so I hope you have taken the email ID down. everythingdeepak@gmail.com. So once again, thank you and all the best to each and every person who joined for this webinar. And Deepak, I'm really very much grateful to you for this session.
Thanks,
thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, all the best.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.